Today, I'm joined by Adam Sutton, real estate attorney, and we are discussing the most important things to consider when purchasing property on North Shore of Long Island. A lot of buyers think that once your offer is accepted, it's a done deal. In New York, it's just the beginning of the process. Adam, walk us through what buyers should understand before entering into legal contract.
The first thing a buyer and or seller should consider is getting representation. That's the most important aspect of moving forward to selling or buying property. By obtaining the correct counsel, mostly a real estate attorney, they will be able to guide you on how to prepare for the transaction. For a buyer, I feel that it's important for you to speak with an attorney and explain why you're buying this purchase, why you're making this major investment, so they could understand how to protect you, because someone purchasing for one reason may be different for another, and there's different ways of looking at the transaction. When purchasing with a buyer, you want to know the area you're buying in, the school districts, and all this should be done through your agent communicating with your attorney.
Many of Long Island North Shore homes are older estates. Is there any specific things that can come up regarding these properties, like title issues or otherwise?
Well, it's important when purchasing any home, but specifically the one that you meant, the type that you mentioned, to make sure if there's any easements, because that's very popular in these type of homes. An easement is something where someone may have a right of way to use part of the property, and that can affect the sale. It could kill a deal if it's not disclosed properly up front. In addition, when you're dealing with older homes in estates like this, there's other inspection issues that may come up. Oil tanks could be buried in the ground. You want to make sure that there aren't any oil tanks in the ground. So it's very important to do a diligent search on the property, as well as the legality of the covenants and restrictions that could be on the property.
That's very important. Adam, in New York, we have an attorney review process after deal goes to contract. What does this process look like, and what are the stages?
Okay, that's a very good question, and I get that question often with out-of-state clients, because New York is very different than every other state.
In Florida, you have an accepted offer, you're automatically in contract.
Correct.
And
correct.
then you do your inspections, and then, here's completely different.
Absolutely. So New York is a due diligence state, meaning that you have to do your due diligence before you sign a contract. Where in other states, you sign a contract and then you do your due diligence. So that even includes your attorney review. So attorney review in other states, attorney won't review the contract until you're already in contract with a standard form contract, which obviously is not in your best interest. Here in New York, you need to do your inspection first. You need to do any other research that you want, because once you sign that contract, it's going to be a binding deal. Usually the only contingency you're going to see is that if you're getting a mortgage, that there's a mortgage contingency, and that things will be in working order at closing. But it's very important that you meet with your attorney and get that contract signed, because if you don't have that contract signed, that offer is still available to anyone else to sign a contract. So there's no deal until there's a signed contract.
Great point. And yes, I always tell the buyers and the sellers for that matter, and frankly, that was changed on MLS, I believe, about a decade ago, when the offer is only considered accepted when formal contract of sale is fully executed. And fully executed means to sign on both sides.
And the deposit given. And one of the biggest questions I always have is, my clients don't want to send the deposit until the seller signs.
Correct.
And that is not how it works.
Correct.
The seller won't sign without the deposit.
That's true.
So it's very important to be prepared with your deposit for the contract signing.
Exactly. Walk us through the process of the closing. What actually happens at the closing table?
The closing is a very special day for all parties, because it's either an exciting time or it could be a time where they're saying goodbye to a very important part of
So
their
it could
life.
be
Yeah,
emotional, and it's
yes.
also, somewhat stressful because we've been
Yes.
to the closings that are
Absolutely. So I always like to tell everyone there's no two closings alike.
correct.
Okay? Because closings are not just paper, they're personalities all brought in one room.
And there's
And
many of those
yes,
personalities in the same room.
absolutely. And that's part of my job also is managing these personalities.
So let's go through so we have the seller's attorney, we have the buyer's attorney, we have the bank's attorney at the closing if financing is involved.
In New York,
In New
yes,
York.
yes.
Then we have
Title closer.
Title closer. Then we have, if there are brokers that represent buyer and the seller. So we have two brokers, and then we might have a mortgage broker in the room as well.
If it's a good mortgage broker, they'll be at the closing.
So full room. And then so what actually happens? Now we're all sitting around the table at the closing table. What happens?
So depending on which party you are, it will require what documents you're going to sign. So the buyer is going to be signing most of the documents because if they're getting a mortgage, they'll be signing the mortgage documents. Their attorney is going to be explaining them to them, and the seller will be signing the deed and the transfer tax forms and some affidavits for the title company. The bank attorney is going to make sure that everything is executed properly. The title company is going to make sure that clear title is being passed to the buyer. So everyone's working together. A lot of the papers are going to get passed around through the different parties for different signatures. And then hopefully there'll be a happy moment where the keys are exchanged at the end. And
that's my favorite
and the
part.
checks are exchanged for the seller.
Exactly.
And everybody walks out happy.
So they made an offer, they found the home that they love, they see themselves living, being happy. The engineer's inspection was conducted, and now it's time to review the contract with their legal counselor, with the attorney. What are the contingencies that are typically included or you recommend that buyers include in the contract?
Okay, so it's very important if you're getting a mortgage and you need a mortgage, that you have a mortgage contingency. That mortgage contingency will state that if you get approved for the mortgage, you have to move forward with the deal. But if you can't get approved for the mortgage, whether it be for you or the appraisal or for the lender doesn't, for some reason, approve the property, that you can get your deposit back and you can cancel the contract. In addition, you want to have clear title as a condition, and you want to make sure that everything is working order, roof free of leaks, basement free of standing water. Those are very important things. In addition, as far as contingencies, if you are someone who is not putting a lot down, you would want to make sure you have an appraisal contingency. But again, everything is...
It's different from mortgage contingency?
Yes, so the mortgage contingency will have a appraisal language in there, but it's satisfactory to the lender. So if the bank is still willing to give you money, then you have to proceed. But if it's an appraisal contingency, the appraisal has to come in at the sale price.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And sometimes it happens at the sales price or even above, or there's quite a few times I've seen where appraisal came in slightly lower just because banks need to protect themselves. And I guess at that point, it's also opening an opportunity to discuss.
Yeah.
Because the buyer is still mortgageable just at the lower number.
Exactly.
Okay. Adam, can you educate me a little bit more on the title insurance and why is it so important in each and every real estate transaction?
Title insurance is probably the most important factor in purchasing a property in New York. Title insurance is going to ensure you that there are no past problems with the property. And when I use the word problems, I mean legal ownership of the property, liens on the property, back taxes on the property. That's something you only pay once when you purchase your property. And that will insure you for all the past. So meaning you want to make sure that the chain of title from one owner to the other throughout the history of this property was done correctly. Because if someone sold the property or transferred the property without legal authority to the next person, you may not be the real owner of that property. And the only way that protects you is by doing a title search and getting title insurance. This is probably one of your most biggest investments of your life, And it's not just a monetary investment, it's your family investment
Yes.
most of the time. And you don't want to get a knock on the door that you don't own this property. Okay?
Imagine
And it has
that.
happened. So I always tell clients, if they were ever considering not to get it, I said I would not represent them, because that would be malpractice on my part, not to allow them, not to make sure that they get title
Absolutely.
insurance.
Real estate taxes on North Shore of Long Island are pretty high. What buyers should know about taxes, about when they're purchasing the property, about real estate taxes, but more importantly, is there any ways to potentially decrease the real estate taxes?
Absolutely, and it's one of the things that are unique to Long Island, is that most home buyers or homeowners will grieve their taxes. There are many outfits in Long Island that specialize in that service, and I greatly recommend that that's done every single year. You have nothing to lose. The way most of these firms work is they will work on a contingency basis. So if they don't save you money, they don't get paid anything. So it's important to contact one of these companies, retain them, and they'll file the tax grievance for the first possible year. Just keep in mind that it doesn't happen right away. Usually you have to file 2 years out. So you're hoping that your seller had grieved the property already, and you could take over that grievance from them.
That can be transferred.
Yes.
In other words, now, let's say we are in March of 2026, and we're grieving, potentially filing for the grievance of 27, 28 real estate taxes. So it's always 18 to 24 months
Yes.
ahead.
Yes. And if you're lucky, as I said, if there was a 26, 27 grievance pending, then you would be able to take it over and receive the benefit.
Enjoy the benefits of grievance that was done prior. Great, thank you. Adam, what is one legal mistake that can potentially cost buyers thousands and tens of thousands of dollars?
Well, that would be not having a home inspection done. Okay.
And some of the buyers, just to make their offer more appealing, sometimes they tend to waive it, which is,
it could be thousands of dollars mistake.
yes.
As a home buyer, you're going to be very excited, emotional, picturing your family in this new home, and you may be overlooking certain things in that home, or you may not have knowledge about those certain things.
True.
So even if you say to the seller that you're not going to raise any inspection issues, you still want to do one for your own sanity and own knowledge, because it will reveal maybe what you need to do in the future, and then you could figure that budget when purchasing the property to make sure if this property makes sense for you.
That is great advice. That even, look, because I think sellers, they tend to believe that a lot of buyers using inspections as renegotiation tool. And when I negotiate on behalf of the buyers, number one, I always recommend to do an engineer inspection, even if it's for your own knowledge and education. And we can always communicate directly to the seller or the broker representing the seller that we're not using this as a renegotiation tool, but we need to know, we need to be aware the condition of the property and what we stepping into. So that's a great, great legal advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam.
My pleasure.
Real estate is not just about finding the right home. It's also about all the legalities behind the purchasing process and having the right team, right real estate advisor in your corner behind the process, kind of navigating the transaction is the most important thing. And I highly recommend you to a lot of my sellers and a lot of my buyers. And I really thank you for all the transactions and the way you handled all of my clients.
It was very enjoyable being here, and thank you for the time. And as always, it's always important to be able to work together as a team, and that's what makes it work.
The right team makes the whole difference.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you like this content, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel.